Would your life as a Blender artist be a little bit more easy and perhaps more fun if you didn't have to deal with physics simulations or tedious modeling or a lot of shading work when you create scenes that contain liquids? Hoping that your answer to that question is yes, we have created Liquifeel, which makes filling up objects with liquid a click of a button and shading them with complex material a matter of dragging a few sliders. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the core functionality of this add-on and how it will help you create scenes with liquids really fast by using the fill functionality, but also the material library that is included with Liquifeel. The first thing we need to do is install it and activate it in the preferences. And once we do that, we can find Liquifeel on the right hand side of the End panel menu. In order to use Liquifeel properly, you need to understand the rules that the object you are trying to fill needs to respect in order for Liquifeel to work. There are three basic rules. The object must have thickness, it should have an opening that is oriented upwards, and lastly, it should be a single island mesh. If you don't know what a single island mesh is, it's just that the piece you are trying to fill needs to be separate from everything else. So if you have, for example, a bottle and the lid is in the same object, you need to separate them first and then select the body of the bottle and click Fill Active. And that brings us to the fun part of actually filling up our objects and applying cool shaders from the library. The first thing you need to do is select the object you intend to fill, go to Geometry, and click on Fill Active. And once you do that, almost instantly, liquid appears inside the object you had selected. You can control the liquid amount with the slider, and it basically just fills up the object more or less. And one thing that's really cool is that the liquid inside the object behaves just like in real life. So if you rotate your glass or your bottle, the liquid will behave like you would expect it. So the surface of the liquid will remain parallel to the ground, while the walls of the liquid will stay connected to the walls of the object we just filled. You may notice that as you rotate the object, the liquid inside appears to lose some of its volume. That is because Liquifeel behaves as if the liquid would go out at the brink of the recipient you had just filled. If you don't want that to happen, you can use the seal container option, which will keep the liquid inside as if it would have a lid or a cap on. You may also notice that you have a drop down at the top where you can select either straight, which is the default option, or irregular. Irregular addresses the situation when you have objects that have openings that are not straight when viewed from the side. So if you have something like a pitcher which has a beak, you should use the irregular version of the algorithm. And what that does is it enables a new setting which is called lip threshold, that you should increase progressively until you see liquid appearing inside the geometry. So just to drive the point home, if you don't see liquid appearing when you click on Fill Active and you know the object respects all the rules I mentioned at the beginning, it might be because it doesn't have a straight mouth and you need to use the irregular version of the algorithm and increase the lip threshold until liquid appears. Next, we have the shading tab, which looks a little bit different depending on whether the object you have selected has been filled previously with Liquifeel or not. In our case, it has already been filled, so we have two tabs at the top labeled To Recipient and To Liquid. That just means where the shader will go when we click on Shade Active. If To Recipient is selected, it will go to the original geometry. If To Liquid is selected, then the shader will go to the geometry that has been generated by Liquifeel inside the original object. Beside that, we have multiple material libraries. So if you click on the dropdown, you will see solids, liquids, and user defined. Solids address transparent materials that will go to the recipient, and liquids, of course, will contain presets for liquid materials like coffee, wine, beer, and so on. If our selection is not of an object that has been filled, then you don't have the two tabs at the top and you just select the library from which you want to apply a shader and click on Shade Active. When you click Shade Active, a material is already applied on your selection. That material is represented by the thumbnail, and if you click on the thumbnail, it allows you to browse through the rest of the materials And as soon as you click on another material, that replaces the one you had already on your object. That way you can quickly apply different presets and see how they look on the objects in your scene. Since this is just a quick intro video for Liquifeel, we're not going to go too in-depth with the material library and how to set up each material, but what you need to know is that the shaders are different between them, and each of them have presets and settings that are relevant for the type of material that they represent. In both the solids and liquids material libraries, there is one shader that is called Uber. So Uber Liquid and Uber Glass. They allow the most customization, so you can use them to create basically any type of glass or liquid you can think about. The rest of the materials are just meant for specific use cases and have settings that are relevant for that. I strongly encourage you to play around with the materials and see what you can obtain using the settings that you have available. It's a lot of fun to play with the materials, and also it will help when you want to create a very specific type of liquid or glass. You will know what to use to achieve the result you are looking for. Last but not least, there is also a 3D model library that we provide with Liquifeel, and it contains common types of glasses and bottles that you can use to populate your scene in case you don't have your own models or you don't want some specific models from other libraries. Adding one of the models to the scene is really easy. You just click on the thumbnail, just like with the shaders, and select the model you want and click on Add Asset to Cursor. Before I end this video, there are just a couple of things left that are useful to know when you're working with Liquifeel. For example, you can use the Hide Recipient option when you are working on the liquid shader, just so you can see it a little bit better. You can also use the Hide Liquid option to make your scene a little bit more performant when you are not working on the specific asset that you filled. Clean is another function that you can use, but this is basically just a shortcut for the function you already have in Blender, and you can find under File, Cleanup, Recursive Unused Data Blocks. Clear, on the other hand, allows you to basically reset the object you are working on. So when you click Clear, both the material and the modifiers that were applied by Liquifeel are erased immediately. Apply is also a sort of a destructive function, but instead of clearing everything, it just makes it permanent. So the liquid will not be interactive anymore when you rotate the object, and also the shaders will not be controllable using the Liquifeel interface. That being said, we hope you thoroughly enjoy Liquifeel and that it becomes a major time saver on a lot of your projects. If you want to communicate with the developers directly and suggest some features or just provide feedback or maybe ideas for future developments, please join our Discord page, which you can do on the Liquifeel website, which is liquifeel.xyz. We are looking forward to hearing from you, and until then, cheers.